The morning sun broke through the dusty window of the abandoned building Alex called home. For the past 3 years, this small corner room on the 5th floor had been a safe place. It offered a good view of the streets below while staying hidden from the watchful eyes of the monitors. Alex woke up with a jolt, hand reaching for the knife under the pillow before realizing it was just another nightmare. The same one, running through endless corridors while mechanical voices called out from behind. These dreams had become more frequent lately. Day 195, Alex whispered, marking another line on the wall with a piece of charcoal. 3 years since I've seen another human face. Standing at the window, Alex looked out at what was once a bustling city. Now it was a ghost town of crumbling buildings and empty streets. Occasionally, a monitor patrol would hover through, scanning for any signs of human life. The monitors, tall metallic beings with glowing blue sensors, had appeared suddenly 3 years ago. Within weeks, they had taken over the planet. Alex had survived by staying quiet, moving only at night and learning the patrol patterns. While others fought and died, Alex hid and watched. It wasn't brave, but it kept Alex alive. Today's plan was simple. Reach the old grocery store 10 blocks away, gather whatever canned food remained, and return before dark. Alex packed light, a backpack, water bottle, and the trusty crowbar that had saved Alex's life more times than could be counted. In and out. Quick and quiet. Alex repeated the usual mantra before heading down the emergency stairwell. The streets felt different today. Alex couldn't explain why, but something in the air seemed charged with tension. The normally scheduled monitor patrol hadn't passed by at its usual time. This break-in pattern was concerning. Alex moved carefully, staying close to buildings and under overhangs. Years of practice had made these movements second nature. 3 blocks down, 5 to go, then 2 more east. The route was planned to avoid the major monitor stations. A sudden noise from an alley made Alex freeze. Heart pounding, Alex pressed against a wall and listened. It sounded like metal scraping against concrete. After a minute of silence, Alex continued, now moving with even greater caution. The grocery store appeared unchanged since Alex's last visit a month ago. The broken front doors remained half open, and the darkness inside promised both danger and supplies. Alex slipped through the gap and waited for eyes to adjust to the dim light. The shelves were mostly empty, picked clean years ago. But Alex knew where to look. Behind the fallen shelving unit in the back, a small storage room remained partially undiscovered. That's where the real treasures were hidden. While gathering dusty cans of beans and corn, Alex heard a familiar humming sound. Monitor drones. They rarely came into buildings, preferring to patrol the open streets, but Alex wasn't taking chances. Gathering the food quickly into the backpack, Alex prepared to leave through the back exit. The humming grew louder, too loud. They were inside the building. Alex ducked behind a toppled freezer, breathing as quietly as possible. 2 monitor drones floated into the storage area, their blue lights scanning methodically across the room. They were smaller than the humanoid monitors, about the size of basketballs, but just as dangerous. As they moved closer, Alex noticed something odd. These drones had a different marking than the usual patrols. Instead of the blue circle, these had a red triangle symbol. In 3 years, Alex had never seen this variation before. The drones hovered near Alex's hiding spot. One of them extended a small probe and began examining the recently disturbed dust where Alex had collected the cans. They were tracking. They were hunting. Alex's grip tightened on the crowbar. If they found this spot, there would be no choice but to fight. The odds weren't good, but Alex had survived this long by never giving up. Just as one drone started to move toward the freezer, a loud crash came from the front of the store. The drones immediately changed direction and sped toward the noise. Alex waited, hardly daring to breathe before carefully peering out. The drones were gone, but they would be back. This was the closest call in months, and it left Alex shaken. Something had changed in the monitor's behavior. They were searching more actively now, as if they knew someone was still out there. With the backpack full of canned goods, Alex headed toward the back exit. The return route would need to be different. Longer, but safer. The journey back took hours. Alex had to hide 3 more times as patrol drones passed overhead. By the time the familiar apartment building came into view, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the empty streets. Once safely back in the small room, Alex emptied the backpack and organized the day's findings. 6 cans of food, a bottle of painkillers, and an unexpected bonus, a working flashlight. It was a good haul, worth the risk. While eating cold beans from a can, Alex's attention turned to the old radio in the corner. Every night for 3 years, Alex had tried different frequencies hoping to hear another human voice. Every night had been met with static. Tonight, Alex turned the dial slowly, moving through the familiar static of each channel. But halfway through the usual routine, something different happened. A brief burst of sound, not static, not monitor communications, but something that sounded almost like a word. Alex's hand froze on the dial. For a moment, there was nothing. Then it came again, broken and distant, but unmistakable. Survivors. Bunker. Coordinates. Doorway. Message cut off, returning to static. Alex frantically adjusted the radio, trying to find the signal again, but it was gone. After 3 years of believing to be the last human alive, Alex had finally heard proof that others had survived. The revelation was overwhelming. Alex wasn't alone after all. With renewed purpose, Alex pulled out an old city map and began studying. There was only one military bunker in the area, about 15 miles to the north. If other humans were there, that's where Alex needed to go. While marking the route on the map, Alex noticed a small red light blinking in the corner of the ceiling. It hadn't been there before. Moving closer to examine it, Alex realized with horror what it was, a tiny camera watching everything. Alex wasn't the observer anymore. Alex was being observed. The next morning, as Alex prepared to leave in search of the bunker and other survivors, a final check of the radio revealed a new message. It was clearer this time. Intentional. You are not alone. We see you. Alex didn't know if this was a promise or a threat, but one thing was certain. The journey for survival was about to change forever. The journey to the military bunker took Alex 3 days. Travel was slow, with constant stops to hide from monitor patrols. The strange red-marked drones had become more common, appearing in areas where Alex had never seen monitors before. On the final day, as Alex crouched behind a fallen highway sign, a monitor patrol passed overhead. These weren't drones, but full-sized monitors, 7-foot metallic humanoids with glowing sensor arrays instead of faces. They moved with disturbing precision, scanning everything. Alex waited, barely breathing, until they disappeared over a hill. The military bunker sat partially buried in the side of a small mountain. Its entrance, once hidden, was now exposed due to a landslide. Alex approached carefully, watching for any signs of monitor activity. The bunker door hung open, bent outward as if something had forced its way out rather than in. "Hello?" Alex called softly, standing just outside the entrance. Only silence answered. Flashlight in one hand and crowbar in the other, Alex entered the bunker. The air inside was stale but breathable. The beam of light revealed a military facility in disarray, overturned furniture, scattered papers, and signs of a struggle. But no bodies. That was strange. In other places Alex had explored, there were always remains. Deep within the bunker, a faint blue light caught Alex's attention. Following it led to a command center with several screens still functioning, powered by a backup generator. One screen displayed a map of the surrounding area with dozens of blinking dots. Another showed what appeared to be camera feeds from various locations, some showing monitor patrols, others empty streets and buildings. "I wouldn't touch that if I were you," a voice said from behind. Alex spun around, raising the crowbar. A man stood in the doorway. He was tall and thin, with a wild beard and eyes that had seen too much. Despite his ragged appearance, he stood with confidence, holding a makeshift spear. "Who are you?" Alex demanded, not lowering the weapon. "Name's James. And you're the one trespassing in our monitoring station." He gestured at the screens. Though I've been watching you for a while now, you're careful. That's good. Alex's mind raced. Watching me? How? Are you working with the monitors? James laughed bitterly. Work with those things? No. We're what's left of the resistance. Not many of us now. Maybe 20 worldwide as far as we know. We? The others are scattered. I'm stationed here to maintain this outpost. James moved to one of the computers and pressed a few keys. The screen changed to show Alex's apartment building. We have eyes everywhere. Not our technology, mind you. We're just borrowing it. Alex stared at the screen in disbelief. That's my building. You put that camera in my room. No, James said firmly. We didn't put it there. It was already there, along with millions of others all over the planet. We just figured out how to access the feeds. He tapped more keys, and the screens showed different locations around the world. Empty cities, monitor bases, vast areas where the landscape had been transformed into something alien. The cameras were here before the monitors arrived. James continued. Someone was watching Earth long before the invasion. We think the monitors know about this surveillance network but can't access all of it. That's our advantage. Alex lowered the crowbar slightly. The message on the radio, that was you? James nodded. We've been trying to contact other survivors. The radio signals are risky. Monitors can track them, but we need to rebuild our numbers. A sudden alarm blared from one of the consoles. James rushed over, his face growing tense as he studied the screen. We need to move. Now. He grabbed a backpack from under a desk. Monitor patrol heading this way. They might have detected our power usage. Where are we going? Alex asked, following James toward a different exit than the one Alex had entered through. To the main resistance base. It's about 2 days from here. James handed Alex a small device that looked like a watch. Put this on. It disrupts their scanning technology. Not perfectly, but it helps. They hurried through a narrow tunnel that led away from the bunker. As they emerged into the daylight, Alex could see 3 monitor ships hovering in the distance, heading toward the bunker. They're hunting more actively now, James said as they moved quickly through a dense forest. Something's changed in their behavior. They used to just maintain control, but now they're searching for something specific. Us? Alex suggested. Maybe. Or maybe they finally realize someone's tapping into their communication systems. They traveled through the day, avoiding open areas. James knew the patrol routes well, leading them through safe passages Alex would never have found alone. As night fell, they took shelter in an old train tunnel. While James set up a small heating unit for their food, Alex asked the question that had been burning since they met. How did you survive the initial invasion? James was quiet for a moment. I was part of a military research team. When the monitors first appeared, we were studying unusual signal patterns we'd detected in orbit. By the time we realized what was happening, it was too late for most people. He passed Alex a heated can of stew. But some of us had been watching the Watchers before they even arrived. What do you mean? Earth has been under surveillance for centuries, Alex. Not just by the monitors. There's something else out there, something that watches both us and them. As they ate, James explained how the Resistance had discovered a complex network of observation devices that predated human technology. These devices weren't just cameras, but something far more advanced, capable of monitoring everything from vital signs to emotional states. We call them the Observer Network, James said. We've only managed to hack into a small portion of it. But what we've seen... He shook his head. The monitors aren't just conquering Earth. They're conducting experiments, harvesting resources, but always following patterns as if they're working from a script. A script written by who? Alex asked. That's what we're trying to figure out. The observers, whoever they are, have been watching humanity's struggle like it's some kind of show. The next morning, they continued their journey. James led Alex to a vantage point overlooking a valley. Below them, a massive monitor facility sprawled across the landscape. Hundreds of the metallic beings moved about with purpose. Some were extracting minerals from the ground while others were constructing strange towers. They're transforming Earth, James explained. Changing the atmosphere, the soil composition. We think they're terraforming it to suit whatever they really are underneath those metal shells. As they watched, a monitor ship arrived, depositing a large container. When it opened, Alex was horrified to see humans inside, alive, but seemingly drugged. "Test subjects," James whispered. "They take them sometimes. We've never been able to rescue any. By the time we locate them, they're changed." The sight filled Alex with renewed determination. "We need to stop them." "That's the plan. But first, we need to get to the others." As they turned to leave, Alex noticed something in the trees nearby, a small blinking light similar to the one in the apartment. Another camera. But this one seemed different somehow, its design more organic than technological. "James," Alex whispered, pointing at the device. James nodded grimly. "One of theirs. Not monitor, not ours. Observer technology." He looked directly at it. "They're watching us right now, both sides of this war, like we're all just characters in some cosmic drama." As they continued their journey, Alex couldn't shake the feeling of being observed, not just by the monitors hunting them or the resistance tracking them, but by something else. Something that watched from behind countless invisible screens, studying every move in this desperate fight for survival. 2 more days of careful travel brought Alex and James to the resistance hideout. They approached a seemingly abandoned dam, built into the side of a mountain. James led the way to a hidden entrance disguised as part of the concrete wall. "We're here," he said, tapping a complex pattern on what looked like solid stone. A section slid open, revealing a narrow passage. Home sweet home. Alex expected to find dozens of resistance fighters, perhaps hundreds. Instead, they entered a large chamber where only 12 people moved about, working at makeshift stations filled with scavenged technology. Their faces were thin and tired, but their eyes held purpose. An older woman with short gray hair approached them. Despite her age, she moved with the confidence of someone in charge. "Welcome back, James." She studied Alex with critical eyes. "And you must be our signal responder. I'm Dr. Mason." "Alex?" came the simple reply, followed by the question that couldn't wait. "Is this everyone? The entire resistance?" Dr. Mason's face tightened. "Everyone in this region. We believe there are other groups scattered globally, but communication is difficult. There were more of us, but..." She didn't need to finish the sentence. She led them deeper into the facility, explaining as they walked. This place was a government research station disguised as a hydroelectric dam. When the invasion began, some of us managed to seal ourselves inside. The main control room was a marvel of improvised engineering. Screens covered the walls, many showing the same surveillance feeds Alex had seen in the bunker, but on a much larger scale. Some displayed monitor facilities, others showed empty cities, and a few appeared to show something happening in orbit around Earth. "You've been watching them all this time?" Alex asked. "No," Dr. Mason replied, pointing to a strange crystalline device connected to their computers. "We've been watching the ones who watch them." She pulled up a chair and gestured for Alex to sit. "What James probably told you is just part of the truth. The monitors aren't the top of the food chain here. They're more like middle management." She typed a command, and the main screen changed to show an orbital view of Earth. Several massive ships hung in space, too large to be monitor vessels. They had an organic appearance, almost like living creatures. "The observers," she said. "They arrived decades before the monitors but stayed hidden. They've been watching humanity for generations, studying us. When the monitors came, the observers didn't leave. They just kept watching." "Why?" Alex asked, struggling to grasp the scope of what she was describing. An older man with thick glasses joined them. "That's the billion-dollar question. I'm Dr. Reed, by the way. I was an anthropologist before all this. My theory? We're part of a controlled experiment." Dr. Mason nodded. "We think Earth is being used as a testing ground. The observers set up surveillance across the planet long ago. Then they brought in the monitors as a catalyst, a hostile force to see how humans would react in a survival situation. Like lab. Rats in a maze," Alex whispered. "Exactly," Dr. Reed replied. "And based on the data we've gathered, Earth isn't the only planet they're doing this to. We've intercepted transmissions showing similar experiments on other worlds." The revelation was overwhelming. Alex had gone from believing to be the last human alive to discovering that humanity itself was simply part of some cosmic experiment. Show the feeds from Sector 7, Dr. Mason instructed another technician. The screen changed to show a monitor facility where aliens were studying human behavior. Captive humans were placed in simulated environments while monitors recorded their reactions. They're studying our problem-solving abilities, our emotional responses, our will to survive, Dr. Mason explained. But here's where it gets interesting. The monitors report everything to the observers. She switched to another feed showing strange symbols flowing across a monitor communication terminal. We've partially decoded their language. The monitors refer to this as the program, and it has viewers. Dr. Reed adjusted his glasses. We believe the observers are broadcasting humanity's struggle against the monitors as some kind of entertainment for other advanced species across the galaxy. We're a reality show? Alex asked incredulously. A very popular one from what we can tell, Dr. Mason replied grimly. Billions of viewers across thousands of worlds watching the last humans fight for survival. Alex's mind raced with implications. But this changes everything. If we're being watched as entertainment, maybe we can use that somehow. Dr. Mason smiled for the first time. Now you understand why we brought you here. We've been developing a plan to do exactly that. She led Alex to a workstation where a young man was modifying what looked like broadcasting equipment. This is Tom, our communications expert. He's been working on hacking deeper into the Observer's network. Tom nodded. The Observer's surveillance system is incredibly advanced, but it has vulnerabilities. We believe we can piggyback on their signal and send our own message directly to their audience. What kind of message? Alex asked. Dr. Mason's expression darkened. A desperate one. We're planning to show the observers and their audience that humans aren't just entertaining victims. We're a species worth saving. The next few hours were spent explaining the details of their plan. The Resistance had discovered that the observers were interested in human creativity, adaptability, and emotional depth. These were qualities that made the show compelling to its alien audience. The plan is to hack their broadcast, Dr. Mason explained, and show moments of human triumph, courage, and connection. The things that make us more than just lab rats. We need to make their audience sympathize with us. We've identified a main transmission hub at a monitor facility 50 miles from here, James added. If we can reach it, we can upload our message directly into their feed. It's a suicide mission, Dr. Reed said bluntly. The facility is heavily guarded. Most of us won't make it back. Alex studied the faces around the room. Despite the hopelessness of their situation, these people had refused to give up. They had discovered they were pawns in a game, but were still determined to change the rules. When do we leave? Alex asked. Before Dr. Mason could answer, alarms blared throughout the compound. A technician shouted from across the room. Multiple monitor signatures approaching. They've found us. The screens showed a dozen monitor ships surrounding the dam. Mechanical troops were already landing, preparing to breach their hideout. How did they find us? James demanded. Dr. Mason rushed to a console. Someone must have tracked us. They never located this place before. All eyes turned briefly to Alex before focusing on the crisis at hand. It doesn't matter now, Dr. Mason said firmly. We need to implement the plan immediately. Tom, is the message ready? It's only partially complete, he replied, typing frantically, but it might be enough. Dr. Mason made a quick decision. James, take Alex and Tom through the emergency tunnel. Get to the transmission hub. The rest of us will hold them off as long as possible. Chaos erupted as everyone moved to their emergency stations. Some grabbed weapons while others hurriedly downloaded vital data. James led Alex and Tom to a small tunnel hidden behind a storage rack. This leads to an underground river. We can follow it downstream. As they prepared to leave, Dr. Mason grabbed Alex's arm. Remember, this isn't just about survival anymore. It's about showing the observers who we really are. Make them see us as more than entertainment. The sounds of combat echoed from the entrance. The monitors had breached the outer door. Go, Dr. Mason ordered, turning back to help defend their home. As Alex, James, and Tom disappeared into the tunnel, the reality of their situation became clear. They weren't just fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting to be seen as more than characters in someone else's story. And somewhere above, unseen eyes were watching every move. The underground river carried Alex, James, and Tom far from the Resistance hideout. The narrow tunnel eventually opened into a wider cavern, where they could hear the distant echoes of combat fading behind them. "We need to keep moving," James said, his voice tight with emotion. "The others are buying us time." They traveled through the darkness, guided only by the small beam of Alex's flashlight. After hours of wading through cold water, they reached a metal ladder leading to a surface exit. "Where are we?" Alex asked as they emerged into the night air. Tom checked a small device. "About 15 miles from the hideout. The transmission hub is still 35 miles northeast." The journey ahead would be dangerous, but they had no choice. The three survivors gathered what supplies they had and began moving through the forest. Tom carried a small backpack containing their most precious cargo, the partially completed message for the observers. "What exactly is in this transmission?" Alex asked as they walked. Tom's face looked ghostly in the moonlight. "Everything that makes us human." Dr. Mason collected footage from the observers' own cameras, people helping each other during the invasion, moments of courage, sacrifice, love. The things that show were more than just animals struggling to survive. "Will it be enough?" Alex wondered aloud. James shrugged. "It has to be. It's all we have left." They traveled through the night, stopping only briefly to rest. By dawn, they had covered nearly half the distance to the transmission hub. As light broke over the horizon, they took shelter in the ruins of a small town. James discovered an abandoned garage where they could hide during daylight hours. As they settled in, Tom unpacked his equipment and began working on the transmission. "I need to finish coding the message," he explained. "It needs to break through their encryption and stay active long enough to reach their audience." While Tom worked, Alex and James took turns watching for monitor patrols from the garage's small window. The town seemed deserted, but they couldn't be too careful. "Do you think any of them made it out?" Alex asked quietly. James didn't pretend to misunderstand. "Dr. Mason would have stayed until the end. She always said she'd rather die fighting than live as a specimen." His voice cracked slightly. "They were my family for 3 years." Alex placed a hand on James's shoulder. This small gesture of comfort, so human, so natural, reminded them both of what they were fighting for. Near midday, Tom called them over, with excitement in his voice. "I've found something in the observer's data stream. It's incredible." On his small screen, strange symbols flowed in patterns. "This isn't just a broadcast signal. It's a two-way communication. The audience doesn't just watch, they interact with the program." "Like commenting on a video?" Alex asked. "More than that," Tom replied. "They vote. They predict outcomes. They request specific scenarios. It's like a game show." James finished the thought. "They're not just watching us struggle. They're influencing what happens." This revelation changed everything. If the audience had input, perhaps they could be persuaded to help rather than simply watch humanity's extinction. As evening approached, they prepared to move out. The transmission hub was still several hours away and they needed to reach it before dawn. They traveled swiftly under the cover of darkness, avoiding main roads and open areas. Twice they had to hide as monitor patrols passed overhead, their searchlights scanning the terrain below. "They're looking for us specifically," James whispered as they crouched in a drainage ditch. "They know what we're planning." By midnight, they reached the outskirts of what had once been a satellite communication facility. Now it was transformed into a towering monitor structure. Strange organic metallic architecture stretched skyward, pulsing with blue energy. Dozens of monitors moved about the complex. "That's our target," Tom said, pointing to a central spire that rose above the others. "The main transmission array is at the top. If we can connect to it, our message will piggyback on their signal straight to the observer's network." The facility seemed impossible to infiltrate. Guards patrolled every entrance, and the perimeter was dotted with sensor arrays. "We need a distraction," James said, studying the complex. "Something to draw their attention while we reach the central tower." Alex had been watching the patrol patterns carefully. "There's a power generator on the south side. If we could overload it." "That might work," Tom agreed. "But someone would need to get close enough to sabotage it." James nodded grimly. "I'll do it. You two focus on the transmission. That's what matters." After creating a crude map of the facility, they prepared for what would likely be their final mission. James collected explosive materials from abandoned vehicles while Tom made final adjustments to their message. "Once we're inside," Tom explained, "I'll need about 5 minutes to connect to their system and upload our message. After that, it's up to the audience." As dawn approached, they put their plan into motion. James moved toward the south side of Story, the complex, while Alex and Tom circled to the east, where a maintenance entrance seemed less heavily guarded. "Good luck," James said before they separated. "Make them see us." 20 minutes later, a massive explosion rocked the south side of the facility. Alarms blared as monitors rushed toward the disturbance. Taking advantage of the chaos, Alex and Tom slipped inside through a service entrance. The interior of the monitor facility was unlike anything Alex had seen. The walls pulsed with what looked like living tissue combined with technology. Screens displayed data in the alien language of the monitors. "This way," Tom whispered, following his device toward the central spire. They encountered only one monitor inside, which Alex managed to disable with the crowbar before it could sound an alarm. As they climbed upward through the facility, they could hear the continuing chaos from James's distraction. Finally, they reached the transmission center, a vast chamber filled with crystalline structures that hummed with energy. In the center stood a glowing console unlike the others. "That's it," Tom said with awe. "That's their direct link to the observer network." As Tom rushed forward to connect their device, a voice spoke from the shadows. "Humans are so predictable." Monitor stepped into view, but this one was different, sleeker with red markings instead of blue. Its voice sounded almost organic despite coming from a mechanical body. "You thought we didn't know what you were planning?" it said. "We've been watching your resistance for months." More monitors appeared, surrounding them. Alex raised the crowbar, in defiance, though it would be useless against so many. "Your species will be eliminated," the lead monitor continued. "The audience has grown tired of your storyline." "What audience?" Alex demanded, playing for time as Tom worked frantically behind the console. The monitor tilted its head. "The beings who watch all worlds, all species. The ones who decide which civilizations live and which die based on their entertainment value." A sudden realization hit Alex. The monitor wasn't talking about the Resistance's plan, it was talking about the program itself. They knew about the observers. "You're just actors," Alex said, "playing the villains for someone else's entertainment." For a moment, the lead monitor seemed surprised. Then it made a sound almost like laughter. "Clever human. Yes, we serve the observers, as all species eventually will. Your resistance, your suffering, all part of the show." While the monitor spoke, Alex noticed Tom had connected their device. He gave a subtle nod. The upload had begun. "If we're just entertainment," Alex said loudly, stepping forward to keep the monitor's attention. "Then I want to speak to your audience directly." The lead monitor moved closer. "Impossible. No species has ever directly accessed the observer network." "Then why are you so afraid to let us try?" Alex challenged. Something unexpected happened. The crystalline structures in the room began to glow more intensely. The screens around them flickered, and the alien symbols were replaced by images, billions, of strange non-human faces watching through what appeared to be viewing devices. Tom's hack had worked better than expected. They hadn't just sent a message, they had opened a direct channel to the observer audience. The lead monitor moved to stop them, but froze as a new presence filled the room. A holographic figure, tall and ethereal, with features that seemed to shift between different forms. "I am Sentinel," the figure said, its voice resonating oddly. "I speak for the Observer Council. This interruption is unprecedented. Alex stepped forward, directly addressing the hologram. Your show is our reality. You're watching the extinction of an entire species for entertainment. Many species have been subjects of the program, Sentinel replied dispassionately. Some survive, most do not. It is the natural order. There's nothing natural about this, Alex insisted. You're playing God with entire worlds. The hologram studied Alex with impossible eyes. Your species has reached a critical moment in your storyline. Viewing ratings are at their highest point. The audience is curious about your final outcome. In that moment, Alex understood the true nature of their fight. They weren't just battling the monitors or even the observers. They were performing for an audience that held their fate in its hands, and somehow they had broken through the fourth wall. The transmission room had become eerily silent. The monitors stood frozen, awaiting commands from Sentinel while the holographic figure hovered before Alex. Behind them, Tom continued working at the console, expanding their connection to the observer network. Your audience needs to see the truth, Alex said, addressing Sentinel directly. Not just our struggle, but who we really are. The hologram's expression remained unreadable. The truth is what the audience finds most entertaining. Your species has provided excellent viewing content for several cycles. We're not content, Alex replied, voice rising with emotion. We're living beings with hopes, dreams, and the right to exist. Tom suddenly called out, Alex, the connection is stable. We have full broadcast capability. This was their moment, perhaps humanity's last chance. Alex stepped closer to the central console where Tom had plugged in their device. The screens around them now showed countless alien faces watching from across the galaxy, waiting to see what would happen next. Begin the transmission, Alex commanded. Tom activated their message and the screens around them flickered. The Resistance's carefully compiled footage began playing, scenes of human courage, compassion, and resilience captured by the observer's own surveillance network. The footage showed parents protecting children during the invasion, strangers helping each other escape, communities forming to survive. It showed human art, music, and scientific achievement from before the invasion. It displayed the full spectrum of human emotion and experience, not just fear and survival, but love, joy, creativity, and hope. This is humanity, Alex narrated as the images played. We aren't just fighting to survive. We're fighting for the right to live as ourselves, to create, to love, to build something better than what came before. The hologram of Sentinel watched, impassively, but the screens displaying the alien audience showed reactions, movement, changing colors, symbols that might have been expressions of emotion. Your monitors, Alex continued, have been harvesting humans for experimentation. They've been terraforming our planet, destroying what makes Earth unique. Is that really what your audience wants to see? The complete destruction of a species that could offer so much more? Sentinel finally spoke. The program must follow its natural conclusion. The audience expects it. Then give them something unexpected, Alex challenged. Show them what happens when a species is given a second chance instead of extinction. As Alex spoke, the facility shook with another explosion. James was still fighting, still creating a distraction. The monitors in the room received some silent command and several moved to leave, presumably to handle the continued threat. Your companion fights well, Sentinel observed. The audience appreciates his performance. Ratings continue to climb. The cold calculation behind those words fueled Alex's determination. We're not performing, this is our lives, our world. Suddenly, the screens changed to show a massive space station orbiting Earth. Inside were rows upon rows of stasis pods, each containing a human body. What is this? Alex asked, stunned by the images. Backup contestants, Sentinel explained matter-of-factly. The program requires contestants to advance the storyline. Your species has not been reduced to a single survivor as you believed. Millions remain in stasis, ready for introduction when needed. The revelation hit Alex like a physical blow. All this time, thinking humanity was on the brink of extinction. when millions were being kept as spare participants in some cosmic game show. Release them, Alex demanded. End this program and let humanity rebuild. That decision is not mine, alone, Sentinel replied. The Observer Council follows audience preference. Your species' storyline has been one of our most successful. The struggle of the last humans has generated record viewership. An idea formed in Alex's mind, a desperate gamble. Then let your audience decide. If they find us so entertaining, let them vote on our fate. Sentinel seemed to consider this proposal. A vote? Interesting. This would be unprecedented in the program's history. If your audience truly enjoys watching us, Alex pressed, wouldn't they rather see what humans can accomplish if given the chance to rebuild? A new season of your show with new challenges, new triumphs? The screens displaying the alien audience erupted with symbols and colors. Something about Alex's proposal had created a stir among the viewers. The audience appears intrigued by this suggestion, Sentinel acknowledged. A vote will commence. The screens changed to display what appeared to be voting options in the Observer language. Tom worked frantically at the console, whispering to Alex, "They're voting on whether to spare humanity or continue with our extinction. I can read some of their symbols now." Minutes passed in tense silence. The monitors remained motionless while Sentinel's hologram flickered occasionally. Finally, the screen stabilized, showing a clear result. Unprecedented, Sentinel announced. The audience has voted to alter the program. Your species will be granted continuation. Alex couldn't believe what they were hearing. What does that mean exactly? The monitors will be recalled. Your captured humans will be released from stasis. Earth will begin restoration to its pre-invasion state. Sentinel's form shifted slightly. This has never occurred in any previous program cycle. Your direct appeal to the audience has created a format change. Tom looked up from the console, eyes wide with hope. It worked? We actually convinced them to spare us? Not out of mercy, Sentinel clarified. Out of entertainment value. The audience wishes to see how humanity recovers from near extinction. It presents new narrative possibilities. Before Alex could respond, James burst into the transmission room, bloodied but alive. He had fought his way through the facility to reach them. We need to leave, he gasped. I've set explosives throughout the... He stopped abruptly, seeing Sentinel's hologram and the strange scene before him. The situation has changed, Alex explained quickly. They're going to let humanity survive. James looked suspicious. Just like that? Why would they? Because we're good television, Alex replied with a bitter smile. Sentinel's hologram expanded, filling more of the room. The recall process has begun. The program will enter a transition phase. Monitors are being withdrawn from your planet. Human subjects will be released from stasis within 7 rotations. And us? Alex asked. The Resistance members who are still alive? You will be designated as program architects for the new cycle, Sentinel replied. Your understanding of both human nature and observer systems makes you valuable to the transition. The screens around them showed monitor ships across the planet, powering down or returning to orbit. The invasion that had nearly wiped out humanity was ending not through victory in battle, but through a reality show's audience vote. 3 months later, Alex stood on a hillside overlooking a valley where hundreds of stasis pods had been delivered. People emerged confused but alive, taking their first breaths of fresh air after years of captivity. Similar scenes were happening across the globe as millions of humans returned to rebuild their world. James approached, carrying a tablet showing the progress of restoration efforts worldwide. It's working, he said. The monitor structures are being dismantled. Earth is healing faster than we expected. And the observers? Alex asked. Still watching. Always watching. James pointed to a small, nearly invisible camera nestled in a nearby tree. But the rules have changed. We're no longer fighting for survival. We're rebuilding civilization while they watch. Tom joined them, looking healthier than he had in years. The ratings are apparently still strong. Humans working together to rebuild Earth is just as engaging as humans fighting to survive. Alex stared at the camera James had pointed out. So we're still just entertainment. Maybe, James agreed. But we're alive, and we have a future now. As they watched more stasis pods open, a figure approached from behind. Dr. Mason, alive and recovered from injuries sustained during the attack on their hideout. We've identified something interesting in the observer transmissions, she said without preamble. Sentinel isn't what we thought. Alex turned to her. What do you mean? Based on the communication patterns we've decoded, Sentinel isn't an observer at all. Dr. Mason's eyes gleamed with the excitement of discovery. Sentinel is human or was human centuries ago. That's impossible, James objected. Not if you consider that the observers have been watching Earth for thousands of years, Dr. Mason explained. We think Sentinel was part of an early abduction, someone who infiltrated their network and gradually gained influence, someone who's been protecting Earth from within all this time. Alex looked back at the camera in the tree. So when the vote happened, Sentinel may have influenced the outcome, Dr. Mason finished. We weren't just saved because we're entertaining. We were saved because one of our own never gave up on humanity, even after centuries among the observers. As the sun set, casting golden light over the valley of returning humans, Alex felt something that had been absent for years. Genuine hope. The world would never be the same, and they would always be watched. But humanity had survived. They had broken through the fourth wall of their reality and changed the rules of the game. And somewhere, behind countless screens across the galaxy, the audience waited to see what they would do next. In the quiet evening air, a small red light blinked. On the camera in the tree, the show continued, but now at least they knew they were on stage. And perhaps knowing that eyes were upon them, humanity would build something worthy of being watched.